Hey, everybody, you are listening to Tippy Talk. My name is Tippy Felsenstein, and I'm here today with Shai Danon, the giant in Israel right now. If you want to know the truth, if you want to hear about what's really going on, that's the person to talk to. Free thinker and activist for truth, and interviewed hundreds of experts on various fields over the last 12 years, which is true. But not even touching the surface of who Shai is. So we're going
I
to talk a
agree with
little
that.
bit. So this is what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about who you are so that people know where you're coming from. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what's the status, what's the state of affairs in Israel right now. But mostly I want to focus on people on what can they do to survive this madness and what should they not do. And I think that's also really important. Like, for example, for me, I will not have anybody stick anything up my nose. That's just me. And if
Same
they
here.
say that in order to do something or go somewhere that has to be done, then that's not going to be done. And that's one of the reasons I literally drove from New York to California, which is 3,500 miles, to avoid having that thing up my nose.
Sure.
But Shai, I know Shai a lot. I've been watching you a lot, and I love almost everything that you say. You know, nobody's perfect. And so, honestly, I'm really, really excited that we're going to have this conversation. But I also think that each one, even if we talk for 4 hours, if you listen to every minute of it, you will learn a lot. You that you didn't always live in Israel. You moved back to Israel, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Not too many people do that after years of being away. How were you able to do it? How was that transition? And do you think you would have been better off now outside?
That's a good question to start with. Thank you for that intro. Obviously, thank you very much. So again, I go back and I say I'm no expert, and actually, it gives me an advantage to maybe use uh, my brain, my intellect, and my heart and my intuition, and to feel or grasp reality and not just understand it or logically think about it, but actually feel reality because I'm a human being and I'm alive. I'm not a robot. I'm not a brick wall. I'm alive and I can use my all my senses. Doesn't matter now if we have five, six, or even more, but I have the right and the obligation nowadays to use all my senses in order to understand and to know what is reality and what we are being told about reality and what I should do in order to break the limitations that maybe they try to impose on me and obviously on us. Saying all that, if I go back to your question now, look, I've been living outside of Israel for, I think, 11 years or 12 years. And I've been living in India. I've been studying Indian classical music there. I play tabla. And I also did a lot of Vipassana courses. And I've been living, again, in India for many years. And I really loved and I learned a lot, obviously, by living there. A lot of it was in the south, in the jungles, by the sea. Some of it was in the mountains. It depends on the season. And I travel with the monsoon, like many do. And also, I've been living in the UK for a few good years. I was married there to my late wife. Her name was Jane McNichols. And we were together 6 years. And she died in a car crash. And I still stayed in England after that. But then I kind of traveled again to Israel and India. And I stayed in India more. And when I came back to Israel, this was in 2009. It was after I kind of, I would say, woke up at 2008. But it's even that is not accurate because when my first wife died, by the way, I'm married today, plus one. When my first wife died, I had like a really waking call, really deep waking call to know that the nature of reality is love. Now, I was in this junction. If someone lost someone close to him, then you probably know that you are in this place when everything drops and you maybe you don't feel your body, maybe you don't, everything you believed in, again, it's a shock, right? So everything you believed in is kind of melting away, and weird stuff starts to happen, as if weird, but one may think about committing suicide. One may think about going to drugs or going to a monastery, or various extreme thoughts come to one's mind. And just to say, I don't judge them. They are all human. They are all acceptable. And what happened to me is that I saw these things happening, but I chose none. And really, what then this allowed probably to this realization that everything is based on love. And this is grace. This is the grace of God that is creating for us reality, creating for us all this magnificent, sophisticated, graceful creation. That means animals, all the animal kingdom, and the plants, and light, and heat, and sound, and magnetism, and living in this, biosphere. It's amazing. Coming to Israel in 2009, after discovering a lot of the stuff I discovered back then, which actually following me over the years, obviously, and I'm been still expanding this knowledge, I came to Tel Aviv in 2009. I arrived to Israel and I was at my mom's place and I was on her computer, and suddenly I had this knowing that I'm not going away from Israel. I have a lot of work to do and time is short. These three things over the last 12 years now, I actually discover why I had these three things, this knowing of these three things, that I don't go away anymore. I have to stay in Israel. I have a lot of work to do and time is short. And look at us now, 12 years, let's say 10 and a half years, before a year and a half, let's say, since the corona started, more or less. Only when the corona started, I started to realize what it meant. Because over the last 10 years, I put out a lot of information in Hebrew, a lot of information in English. Again, like you said, interviewing hundreds of experts and professionals from various fields. I learned a lot myself, obviously. And I try to expand this knowledge base to other people. And again, a lot of work I've done in Hebrew and English. And I realized that what I've been doing in Israel in the last 12 years have helped so many people. Not just to learn who the baddies are and what their plan is, but also to learn what one should really learn, or to relearn, or to unlearn, in order to fulfill his potential or her potential, in order to connect really to your human side, and not your, again, robotic side or mechanistic side or technocratic side, but to really be.
I call it hypnotic side. You have this life hypnosis, and you
Fair
all
enough.
can wake up.
Yes, you can call it hypnotic side as well, absolutely. Because and now we see it's mass hypnosis, it's big scale. I mean, this is like on steroids now, and many people still don't see it, right? I mean, there's more and more people do wake up to understand that they've been fooled, they've been played with, they've been lied to, and it's really deep, because it is like an hypnosis that you have to come out of it in order to see that you were asleep, you were under deep hypnosis for so long, and it just got worse over the last year and a half, but it was the same before that.
Right.
And again, it just now it's on steroids.
Because I think we have been misled by so-called experts, and
Yeah.
just not just now, but always. And when you listen to an expert, like if you go to the doctor and the doctor said something and you do it because he's the doctor, you're screwed. If you
Yes.
listen to anyone without using your own mind, you're an expert over your own life, over your own body, but you're not
Yeah.
anymore because the expert has to tell you everything. Something is always going to go wrong. You can't just have other people dictate everything. Maybe up to age 10 or 12, but after a while, you have to think. So that's why I brought it up, because I really think at this point, people have to wake up to the fact that you're the expert of your life and you have to funnel everything through your own thinking.
And they've been, what you just said, it's really important because they've been using, I mean, the scientism, all right, has been using virology as a mean to push us into
To
this
inject
state of
misinformation to us.
not just, but I mean, not we, but the majority of people who believe this scientism and this virology actually give the scientist and the guy behind the electronic microscope, give him the authority over his health. Even though he has no symptoms, he feels great.
Right.
Someone can come and tell him, look, you're sick. No, I'm
I, lo-
not.
I
Yes, you
love
are.
this. I love this concept of asymptomatic. What does that
Exactly.
even mean? I don't look sick. I
Exactly.
don't feel sick, but I'm asymptomatic. So now I'm sick. They have to
Exactly.
stick something up my nose to tell me that I'm sick. I mean, and people actually buy into it. And people actually
And
buy
that,
by that.
and that's what I mean. The decision of if one is sick or not is not in his hands or in his
Right.
feelings or in his guts. It's with some other guy who has to check a sample of his snot. I mean, come on, guys, where is this going? And obviously, there's levels or there's like dots that you can wake up to or in. And this is really crucial because the virus has been never taken out of someone and was isolated and proven to exist, neither the variant. Again, it was not taken from someone, all right?
I think the
Maybe it
variant
was
doesn't even have a test, a fake test, let's say, or a real test
true,
to prove. So if you tell
true.
me
It's
I have
like,
a variant, but you never tested me for it, but I have to take your word for it that I have a variant.
exactly. I mean, obviously, it's all a cover story on a cover story just to allow their agenda to progress. And, but before we go there, just to make this point, they chose virology as a mean to control us because it takes away our sovereignty to decide how we feel. I mean, it's as simple as that. In order for you to feel good, you have to be told that you are
That you're
clean from viruses or variants.
and I'm
And
sorry, that sounds so stupid, but it's so
stupid, yeah.
real. It sounds ridiculous.
And people accept it because they are under hypnosis.
Right,
Okay, so
right.
under
That's why. So
hypnosis,
I want to
that
go back to something else that you said that is really important. You said that you woke up, that after your wife's car accident, you woke up. What do you mean by woke up? Because that's a really important process that I think everybody needs to go through.
look, I had a couple of times that I kind of woke up, if I can say that. The first thing or the first time was after she died. I didn't feel my body, and the one I thought I was, Shai with his feelings and thoughts and ideas and sensations and whatever, I was not there. I was not present. I was still
So
there.
you mean
Someone was
you mean
still.
your intellect was gone? You just
No thoughts, no, I could not feel my
no
body,
sensations. Uh-huh.
no hunger, no thirst. I drank a little bit and I tried to eat some rice. This I'm talking in the first 3 weeks, okay,
So you mean it's
from
almost like you died, you weren't there. You went through like a life event.
so so what happened, it's similar, but what happened after roughly 3 weeks, I read in a book that my wife was reading before she died. And the book, I opened it in a place where she put a mark. So that's the
Wow.
place she was reading just before. And I saw it only roughly 3 weeks after. I opened the book and I was reading this paragraph speaking exactly about what I cannot say what I experienced in these 3 weeks because I was not there, but about the experience that went through me. Okay, I'm trying to find words here. And it may happen. This was a book, by the way, by Papaji, which was a disciple of Ramana Maharshi from India. And it said there that there may be a time in one's life that he will not be present.
Mhm.
And during this time, he will still speak, but it will not be his words. He
Wow.
will have no appetite. He will have no thirst. People will come to him to listen what he has to say.
Wow.
It may be out of a deep meditation. It may be out of trauma, some sort of heavy trauma. It cannot last more than 21 days because then this person might get crazy or die. No food, again, no food will come to his mouth, etc. And this is what happened to me. And when I spoke, it was not me speaking. At least that was the experience. I don't know how
That's
I
your
came across
sensation.
outside.
Right. Right. That was your
Yeah.
sensation. Mhm.
And that was really, really interesting for me to experience. And then I realized that this state I was in, this state of love and joy and grace, I had it all along. And I remember this state from when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, waking up every morning, happy for being alive, not because I'm going to play with my toys or see my mom or my dad, but just opening my eyes, waking up to another day of life, being happy for it. And what I felt was exactly that. And I was shocked because, hang on, I just lost my wife. I should be really sad. And I am sad. And I have tears. And I'm crying my heart out. And at the same time, I feel joy because Shai that I have accumulated over the years just dropped. And what was left beneath all this is love, is grace, is joy for being alive. So this sort of contradiction, this sort of contradictory, how you say contradictory
Contradictory.
things that happen,
Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, obviously, again, it's because of a trauma and something which is really sad, but this helped me to see myself and life in a different light. And then this was in 2005. In 2008, I was in India. It was off season, so not many tourists around back then. And I met this guy. He was Hungarian, British, Buddhist monk living in Thailand most of the time. So he was older than me, and we sat and I made some coffee, like espresso, and we started to chat. And he told me during this conversation, there's a base on the moon and a colony on Mars. And I was like, come on, dude. I mean, come on. And this was 2008. And he said, yes, it's quite known. I'm like, hang on. Now, what happened? The night before, I mean, let's say I sit with him at 9 o'clock in the morning. Few hours before that, when I fell asleep, just before, I was reading a book from the 70s about the Cold War, CIA, KGB bullshit. And in this book from the 70s, fiction book, the advisors of the United States president, they came to him and told him there's a base on the moon and colony on Mars. And few hours later, a guy is coming in real life and telling me the same weird thing. And I'm like, come on, man. And he's like, yes, you can check it. And I'm like, okay, never mind. Okay, he left. And then I opened my laptop and a friend gave me a hard disk with a lot of new movies and series. And she wanted me to burn some copies. This is hard disk was not hers, but she wanted me to burn some copies on DVD so she can have some new series. And this is India on the beach, so
Right.
we're doing like stuff like that as well. So basically, I just put the hard disk and I double click just to see that something does open, that it works. And a lecture opened. And the lecture was from 2006. And in this lecture, a few minutes into the lecture, the guy is saying, there's a base on the moon and a colony on Mars. And I'm like, what the F? You know, like,
Oh my God.
then sentence, okay? It's
Wow.
not like someone is telling me, listen, your wife is on the phone and your meal is ready. It's a base on the moon and colony of Mars. It's like, it's detached from anything I knew, all right? So I watched the lecture and I was shocked and I was mesmerized and I cried and I laughed and I got angry and so many things went through during this 3 hours lecture. And then I went to the internet. Actually, I spoke about it today with a friend. I went on the internet, this internet cafe, you know, like old connection, very slow, and I wrote down on a search engine based on the moon colony on Mars, and I saw tens of thousands of results, and I'm like, come on, what's going on here? So I started to dig. Now, I found myself in a very peculiar situation for the first time in my life because I was watching YouTubes, all right? Let's say I was watching a film about geology. I never thought I can be interested in geology, but let's say I watched a video about geology, a lecture. At the same time, this was with headphones. At the same time, I was reading a document about chemistry. Nothing, like no connection between the two. And the third thing I did is taking notes from what I listen and what I read. All right. And suddenly I realized that my brain is capable of doing more than I thought it can. Suddenly, I was like, hang on, it's not just what I think about, it's the way I think about it and how I connect different fields together in my brain. It's like input and output all at the same time. Now, I'm a bloke, you know, I'm a guy. I never knew I could do
Right.
simultaneous things together, you know, and then I noticed this what happens, and I kind of started to discover, and that's the second awakening, that although underneath everything there is love and grace and good intention of the creator, there's a force that is trying to disturb this prosperity.
This amazing truth, this amazing reality.
Yes. And it took me back then, I was, for example, I give you like a quick routine of the day. I get up in the morning, I do my kind of yoga stretches, not really yoga, but anyway, I drink something, I sit and I practice tabla. Tabla is Indian drums. Just so you understand, it's something
It's like
like,
one of those things that you do this, the tabla.
no, it goes,
Got
no,
it.
it goes, um, don't be scared now from what I'm going to say. Stuff like that. Okay, this is the
That's
notation.
tabla.
Yes,
That's what you call
yes.
tabla. So it's the
That's
sound.
the notation. That's the notation for the tabla. The actual drums, maybe we can do another talk and I'll show you the actual drums.
That's
But it's quite
interesting.
famous
Yeah,
drums.
definitely a topic by itself. Yeah.
Anyway, so I did that, and then I
Wait,
eat
wait, wait.
something, and then,
Does this wait 1 minute? Does this sound mean anything? Does those words have some kind of meaning behind them?
no, it's the notes.
Oh,
It's
it's
like you
notes
have,
like do, re, mi, that kind of notes.
it's notes for the Indian percussion. Okay,
Okay, so it doesn't.
in
Yeah,
the,
so it's
in
not
the
words that mean things.
no, they mean sounds. For example, look, I- I'll show it maybe in a different way. For example, if I play dhana datita dagina datita datita dagina dhagatina kina dhagina gina gedina gedagina datita dagina dhagatina kina. I can play the same thing, same notes. Dhana datita dagina datita datita dagina dagatina kina dagina gina gedina gedagina datita dagina dhagatina kina. So I put various different emphasis and feelings into what I play. Now, if you play a drum kit, you cannot do it. Almost, you cannot do it. If you play a djembe or some other drums, you cannot do it. Tabla is the most sophisticated drums because it has many sounds in it, and you can pronounce and play the sounds on the tabla the way you pronounce them in your brain and in your mouth. So for that is unique, and it's considered to be the most, complicated drum. And Indian music in general is, I think, the most complex music in the world. But that's
Yeah,
just maybe
but you're
my.
right. That's definitely another topic for another day because I could
Yeah,
talk to
yeah,
you
I know,
about
I know, I
that
know.
for hours about sound.
I know.
And I want to,
So every day I was doing this, and then going to the internet cafe and learning. Most of the things that people have learned over this year and a half, I was learning back then, and obviously people have been doing it before me. But I woke up back then to this idea that there's a force that is trying to disturb
the
the
serenity
laws
of the
of
universe.
creation.
Right.
Yes. And since then,
Basically, I think it's a force that's trying to destroy creation,
yes,
right?
to overtake, to take
Overtake and
control.
destroy. Overtake and destroy.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I agree, definitely. Now we are pretty much naive, which is, I envy naive people, and I wish in a way I could go back to being naive, but once
Are you saying that ignorance is bliss? Like being
you see,
ignorant?
in a way, there's
No,
obviously not,
no, I'd rather not be.
but
No,
there's some beauty
in
in
ignorance.
not ignorance, but having no worries. All right, it's not ignorance, but it's out of ignorance one can have no worries, but it doesn't mean that he will have no worries. I'm just saying there's some beauty in having no worries. I miss it. All right. I miss, and I
I
envy
don't.
people who.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
But I can definitely like when I see someone like I was talking to my brother yesterday, and he said he had corona and that he knew he had corona because they told him he did and he wasn't feeling well. And I said, you know, the test is not very accurate. And he's like, "תפסיקי לדבר שטויות, אני לא מאמין בשטויות." And part of me saying, you know what, he's better off not knowing because he's living in a world where it's so simple. But the other side of me is saying, but oh my God, what's going to happen if he doesn't find out? So yeah, I totally get it. But I want to go into something really important that you also mentioned, and it's important because today it's about what's going on. You basically are saying that your pain brought you to power. Like you experienced something really painful, somebody in your life died, so it's
good
pain,
point.
power. And basically I think the only way to get to be powerful and to grow as a human being is through pain. Like if you don't get hit over the head, then what's going to wake you up?
You are probably right. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example of waking up without pain. I don't see I don't think it exists. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I agree with you. Maybe that's the way, like this dialectic. You need to go to one side and to experience pain in order to overcome it, and in order to be liberated from it, and to understand something about yourself and life, and accept it, and live with it, and upgrade yourself. And maybe one has to go through pain in order to really do it properly, and that's what we are all experiencing on a global
And
scale almost.
that's exactly my point. The point
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
in order for humanity to wake
yeah,
up, Corona had to
yeah.
happen. It had to happen in a massive way. And I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse until right now you're in the minority. You're seeing the truth. I'm seeing the truth. Maybe what, 10% of humanity, maybe 20%, but definitely not more than 20%. Does that mean that we have to take the shit, excuse my language, until everybody wakes up? I mean, because really,
Look, I've been taking this for a long time, so maybe yes, I don't know, but I think the time is not. I mean, it's over the corner now. I mean, I don't know if we have months, weeks, months, couple
they
of years. I don't know, but we have to wait and see. And meanwhile, we cannot sit back and enjoy the show, because I think we have a major role to play here. I mean, just think about, I think about people I know, family members, friends,
people you love.
parents,
Yeah,
friends,
yeah. Like my
and they
daughter.
have taken they have done their decision to take these injections without knowing what's inside, without understanding or even trying to understand about
They don't
what will
want to hear
happen
it.
if they
They
take.
don't want to hear
No,
it.
they don't want.
But I'd love to invite you to come back and continue talking about a lot of different things that we didn't touch on, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
sure.
And I really want to thank you for taking the time, not just to
Sure.
talk to me, but really to be everywhere. I noticed that you're not just sitting at home having popcorn, although you should try that. It's fun.
Thank you very much, Tippy, and all the best. God bless us all. Thank you very much.
And thank you, everybody. And please join us and give us some feedback. My name is Tippy Felsenstein, and you are listening to me with Shai Dannon or Danon. Shai Danon. Is that how it is?
Yes.
From Israel and from California, where mask Nazis ruled the streets. Hope to see you soon. And thank you, Shai, so much. We'll see you
You're
again.
welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And before I go here, let me just show you, this is my book on Amazon. It's called Wake Up and Plan for Roses. It is about planning your life consciously, because we actually plan our life unconsciously if we don't have an active plan. So might as well make it active, might as well make it the way you like it. So if you want the book, it's Wake Up and Plan for Roses on Amazon.